On the eve of Big Ten Media Days in Indianapolis, in addition to welcoming 4 new schools from the West Coast, the question this week will be how many more teams will arrive in the future through expansion and realignment? And why is everyone talking about the North Carolina Tar Heels of the Big Ten? We have answers. It's what we do. That's next, right here on Locked On Big Ten.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com and get started. So the Tar Heels in the Big Ten. People are talking. So are we. Plus, what to expect of the Maryland Terps this season? I expect another streaky season, to be honest with you. And we'll have our Big Ten top 10, but we're going to have questions that we want answered this week at Media Days in Indy. So the Big Ten is gathering in Indianapolis starting Tuesday to kick off the 2024 season. We're very excited about this. And it promises to be the most exciting season ever with the addition of Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA, of course. And, of course, this is coming on the heels of Big Ten champion Michigan making an undefeated run throughout the schedule last year on its way to a national championship. So everything's going great in the Big Ten right now. Plus, no matter what you think about the expanded college football playoffs, for example, I don't like them. I was good at 4, don't need 12. I think it really diminishes the regular season. You don't believe me? Wait till we see Michigan and Ohio State play in the last game of the season, then turn around and play each other the next week at the Big Ten championship, and then play each other 2 weeks later in a college football championship. Or maybe this year it happens with Oregon and Ohio State. You wait, because that's going to happen. Nevertheless, that's a topic for another day, which I'm sure we've covered before and will again. But the upside to that is there are a lot of Big Ten teams that have a legitimate chance at making the college football playoffs with the expanded field. Penn State, are you listening? So we have thoroughly documented Florida State and Clemson's legal attempts to leave the ACC and possibly join the Big Ten. We're all for that. But if you read the tea leaves lately, or as of today, or maybe as soon as tomorrow when Commissioner Tony Petitti speaks and addresses the media, we wonder if the feeling is really that mutual about Florida State and Clemson joining the Big Ten someday. Is the Big Ten good at remaining at 18 teams? Or are there other schools that they would rather have? Extended invitation. Obviously, Notre Dame's always part of the conversation. But after Florida State and Clemson, that next tier of interesting teams that you could talk about, maybe they invite a Miami, maybe they invite North Carolina, Virginia, for example. Surely they would all be good fits for the Big Ten on the field and in the classroom as well. But let's stop for a moment and let's circle North Carolina all of a sudden. All right. Now, we haven't talked a lot about North Carolina joining the Big Ten, although we haven't ignored it either. It's kind of always been in the shadows just a little bit. North Carolina seems to be content on letting Florida State and Clemson rack up these massive legal bills to bounce from the ACC and then let the chips fall where they may, and then maybe make a decision then about their future and whether to join a conference like the Big Ten, perhaps. But it was weird this weekend because I'm always keeping my eyes and ears open for anything over the weekend, every day of the week for that matter. And I thought it was odd that I heard 2 different pundits talk about North Carolina joining the Big Ten. 2 different ones. One of them was Paul Feinbaum. Okay. Feiney likes to throw stuff against the wall, see if it sticks. And David Pollack, actually, who I find very reasonable. So when a couple of people are talking about it, in addition to us or me, it gets my attention sometimes. Now, Finey says if the ACC implodes, there would be real interest in the Big Ten and the SEC for North Carolina's services. And while Locked On Big Ten has been speculating the pros and cons of every ACC school that could be available for realignment, we feel that North Carolina is a school that the Big Ten and the SEC would actually get into a bidding war for. I think both conferences are like, well, both conferences have seemed publicly anyway kind of cool toward Florida State and Clemson for various reasons. You get North Carolina up for grabs, then you're going to see something. So I think North Carolina just checks all the boxes on the field, off the field, in the classroom, all that stuff that the Big Ten likes. And I know that football is king, and I know football pays the bills. But as a fan of Big Ten basketball, I would love to see the Tar Heels at Big Ten play. That would be cool. That'd be very cool. Analyst David Polak also went so far as to say that North Carolina would be a perfect fit to join the Big Ten. Of course, these things like Noah's Ark come in too. So if North Carolina came, who would come with them? He'd like to throw Virginia out there. Again, we haven't talked about it a lot. It's always been kind of out there. Maybe not the first or second choice, but the next group. Virginia, North Carolina, that'd be a nice combo. We've discussed that. It's been a while, though. It's been a few months since we've talked about those two schools. But anyway, that's what he's thinking out loud right now. Look, there are 24 days now until the ACC deadline, where if a school wants to leave the ACC in time for the 2025 season, they have to declare so by August 15th. Now, that likely means that there would have to be a settlement in these separate court cases involving Florida State and Clemson versus the ACC and the respective countersuits going on as well. So it is highly, highly unlikely North Carolina or Virginia or anybody else will make a move before some resolution is reached in the courts regarding Florida State and Clemson. So the longer that drags out, it drags out for everybody. If something were to happen, boom, anything could happen at that point. So as far as the Big Ten Media Days go this week, you know the drill. Tony Petitti will be out there, the commissioner, kind of the State of the Union. Remember last year with the Big Ten Media Days, he had been on the job for like a couple months, if that. He was the new guy. He had no idea what was about to hit him. The whole Jim Harbaugh stuff going on. You had the Mel Tucker stuff going on. It was about to get really interesting behind the scenes for him on that job. So now he's got a whole year plus under his belt, a lot more comfortable with how things are going. I think he'll have some interesting things to say or not say in front of the media. So he'll talk on Tuesday, and then on tomorrow's podcast, we'll give you the list. All the coaches are going to break them up over a few days and what players they're bringing with them. Before we leave the podcast here today, I'm going to give you my expectations, the top storylines that I think will come out of this week, part of our Big Ten Top 10 observations for the weekend. We kind of fast forwarded kind of our Big Ten Top 10 predictions for this week, if you will, in our final segment that we have there. But as far as the media days go this week, I would not expect Commissioner Tony Petitti to get past maybe his second question before he gets a question from the media about future expansion and realignment. It's coming. Everybody's talking about it. He wants to talk about it. And these media days are meant to get excitement and everything out there, out in the open, answer some questions. At the same time, it's almost like a political game. There are some topics that he probably doesn't want to expand upon. Speaking of expansion, I would expect him to get the questions, maybe a couple follow-ups. I would also expect Petitti to deflect the question as much as possible. He will probably say, and almost verbatim, look, we're the Big Ten. We're happy with our 18 teams. We are thrilled to welcome Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA. Those are the 4 teams we're bringing in. That's our expansion right now. We've got our schedule set for the next 2 years. That's going to be the company line he's going to give this week, regardless of whether it's true or not or ends up being true or not. That's what he's going to say for the most part. Anyway, we'll be here to decipher all of it. Can't wait. Going to check it all out as the week unfolds. In the meantime, If you are a Big Ten fan, you're a fan of a school in a Big Ten, and you haven't yet already, be sure to subscribe to Locked On Big Ten. It gets you and me on the same wavelength every day talking Big Ten. We're here every day for you. And when we took over this channel, we had about 1,200 subscribers. We just blew through 9,000 already in just over a year. We want to get to 10,000 before the start of the football season. If you could help us out, just click it. It doesn't cost you anything. There's no other information required. And then you and I, we're all together every dayers. Locked On Big Ten right here. Subscribe and follow Locked On Big Ten wherever you get your podcast. That way you'll always get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And don't forget to pick up some of your Maryland Terps shirts and hats for the upcoming season. Why do I single out the Maryland Terps? We look at a team every day. We're going to look at the Terps today. They had a very streaky, won a bunch of games, lost a bunch of games, very streaky year last year. I think they're in for some more streaking. I will explain all that. It is coming up. You can find all the merchandise and all of our podcasts right on our website, Talk Big Ten. That's the number 10, talkbig10.com, talkbig10.com. Check that out. And I think you really like it, how it's laid out and everything there. The podcast and the merchandise, all right at your fingertips. All right, Terps, Fear the Turtle. That's coming up. And then our top 10 predictions for this weekend for Media Days, all right around the corner, right here on Locked On Big Ten. FanDuel makes sports better, makes the summer go better, right? FanDuel. There's baseball, lots of baseball going on. We're kind of in between the quiet before the storm, before football gets going. But FanDuel lets you keep sporting on whenever you want, all right? This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball, prop bets, parlay games. I got a few for you here tonight. Why don't you parlay a few of these? All right. Got the O's over the Marlins. Got the Phillies over the Twins. The Rangers over the White Sox. Why don't you do a 3-team parlay right there? Also, take the over on the Red Sox and the Rockies. The ball's always flying out of there. And I also like the Astros over the A's for good measure. So there you go. There's some things to play with. Check it out at FanDuel, FanDuel.com. And, of course, they're the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Want to thank you for checking out Locked On Big Ten and making us your first listen each and every day. Thank you very much, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And once again, don't forget, go check out our website. It's got all of our podcasts and merchandise from your favorite teams, especially you Terps fans. We're going to be talking about Maryland here in just a second. Talk Big Ten. It's the number 10, talkbig10.com. All right. So last year's narrative with the Maryland Terps, it was year 5 for Mike Loxley since he came over from Alabama. After 5 years, you've got all your players in place, all your recruiting in place. The guys you recruited when you first got there are all mature, grown up, and developed and ready to go and ready to win. So all that was, and then they had Talia Tagovailoa at quarterback too, ready to go, seasoned. There were some expectations for the Terps last year. Now, going into the season here on Locked On Big Ten and everywhere else regarding Big Ten football, it was the usual storylines. How good's Michigan going to be? How good's Ohio State going to be? They're both going to be great. Penn State was the story last year saying, hey, we're going to be included with those guys this year. I know they beat us every year and we win all the rest of our games, but we're going to be up in that talk with Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State, right? Maryland also raised its hand. And they said, hey, us too. Don't forget about us. And that's when things started to get interesting because, as you remember, Maryland started out 5-0. It's like, wow, okay. Schedule was, favorable for that, but they won the games 5-0. Great. Maybe it was the year of the turtle. Then came that bad second half in Columbus against Ohio State. I've argued all since then. Ohio State broke Maryland last year. Broke them. They were 5-0 going to that game. We're hanging with them in the first half. A few bounces didn't go their way, and then it fell apart. But okay, you're 5-1 coming out of that game. Still build from there, but just as streaky as that 5-0 start was, they lost 4 in a row before beating Nebraska in November. The following week, though, in all honesty, even though they lost to Michigan, they gave Michigan all they can handle. I believe it was the only time in the regular season that Michigan had fallen behind in the second half, if I remember that correctly. Terps played them pretty well, but Michigan ended up winning the game. Go through the rest of the season. Ultimately, Maryland ended up beating Auburn in a Music City Bowl. Ended up with a respectable 8-5 record. And look, I know they were hoping for more than that at the beginning of the season, but it's something to build on for 2024 and 3 straight winning seasons for Maryland football to build on. So it was good. It's a good season. I think they wanted great, but it was good. Well, they'll no longer have the Big Ten's all-time leading passer in Tagovailoa at quarterback. So this year in the summer, it'll be a battle for the quarterback job. Last year's backup, Billy Edwards, and MJ Morris, who transferred in from North Carolina State, he'll be coming in. They'll be battling for that job. Roman Hemby is back at running back, quarterback's best friend, whoever gets that job. I like Hemby. We talked about him a lot last year. That's a good running back there. Liked him a lot. Got some familiarity on the outside with Ty Felton and Caden Prather as well. They'll be back on the outside. And then they did add a little bit to the offensive line. Center Josh Kaltenberger transferred in from Purdue. So a lot of question marks on offense. However, the strength of this football team is the same thing it was last year, other than Talia's passing, and that was the secondary. Secondary was very good for the Terps on defense last year. 3 of those veterans come back, plus they added Jalen Husky from Bowling Green from the portal. So they're experienced and they're solid back there on the secondary on the back end of the defense. But, you know, a lot of questions. And it seemed to me, you know, there's a little bit more uncertainty here than there was last year. There was some certainty last year. Hey, we're going to be good. And, you know, it worked out in streaks. Didn't work out as well as they thought. 8-5, though, I'm telling you, good season. I don't know what to expect. I don't know if they can get to 8 wins this year. Maybe. But if you thought last year was streaky by going 5-0 and then losing 4 in a row, I'm looking at the schedule this year. I think there's going to be more of the same. We're going to go over this here. A 6-0 start, a 7-1 start. It's possible. It's on the table. It's on the table. But those last 4 games of the year, closing time, looks pretty tough. Let's take a look. So they start off with UConn on Saturday, August 31st. That's a noon game and a winnable game. September 7th against Michigan State. We talked about Michigan State last week. I think this is a 50-50 game, but I think it's a winnable game. It's at home. I think it's a winnable game. It's not a gimme by any stretch, but you could be 2-0. Then at Virginia on the 14th. I think you can win that game, 3-0. And then Villanova should win that game on September 21st, 4-0. I told you, it's going to be a streaky start again. Then you go to Bloomington to take on Indiana. That is a winnable game. Blew out Indiana last year. So 5-0. Then you come home. We're in October. You get a bye week. Then October 11th, you come home. That's a Friday night, by the way. Taking on Northwestern. Again, winnable game. I have respect for Northwestern. People seem to think they're going to slip back from the 8-win season a little bit last year. But if you win it, 6-0. 6-0 to start the season, a year after you started out 5-0. Now, the next game is South Carolina. It's South Carolina, the other USC, Southern Cal. Southern Cal. Now, it's at Maryland. They're coming all the way across the country. Could be a tough game. I think Southern Cal wins that game, but then a nice bounce-back game on the road, Maryland at Minnesota. I think Minnesota is going to be at the bottom of the Big Ten this year. This is a winnable game. So, like I said, 6-0, lose to Southern Cal, then bounce back with a win against Minnesota. 7-1 is on the table. That is possible. It's the last 4 that have me up at night if you're a Maryland Terps fan. All right. Then you go across the country at Oregon. Probably not going to win that game. Then you come home, taking on Rutgers I'm big on Rutgers this year. I'm big on Rutgers. It's not a lot. I mean, it's a 50-50 game, but I think Rutgers is going to win this game. Then you take on Iowa. Iowa's going to be tough in their own way. They're the most unique team in the Big Ten. And then at Penn State on Saturday, November 30th, probably going to be a loss. So streaky like last year after 5-0 and then 4 losses, same thing. 6 straight wins. Then you go 1-1 and then you lose the last 4. I think that's how this season plays out. So a 7-win season, 4th straight winning season for Maryland. Okay. Not as many wins as last year, though. That's how I see it. Unless all of a sudden that quarterback play gets really good, something we didn't see or expect. But that's how I see the season playing out for the Maryland Terps. Let me know what you think. You can hit us up here. Comments on Twitter and X at Talk Big Ten, YouTube comments as well. Don't forget our website, talkbig10.com. You watching FS1, Fox Sports, ESPN in the daytime, that stuff. Frankly, the ratings are kind of low for some of that stuff. But if it's on, maybe you got to turn it down. I got a better alternative for you for those talking heads talking sports all day. Locked On Sports Today. A free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest sports stories without all the screaming. It's Locked On Sports Today, brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app we tell you about. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Mondays, we always like to do our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. Obviously, there's a lull in the sports schedule here at this time of year in mid to late July. So we're going to do a little look ahead. I'm going to give you my Big Ten top 10 predictions, what I think will be the biggest storylines coming out of Big Ten Media Days in Indianapolis. So a look into the future. That is next, right here on Locked On Big Ten. All right, back on Locked On Big Ten, we're going to do our feature. I told you we're going to tweak it just a little bit here. Instead of our Big Ten top 10 observations for the weekend, we're going to do our Big Ten top 10 thoughts and predictions coming up here at Big Ten Media Days. I'm going to put them up here on the screen. If you're listening on audio only, a lot of you people check out the podcast on audio only or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts. I'll describe here in detail what we have. First of all, I think an interesting storyline here. Number 10, biggest surprise of the year, I think, is shaping up to be Rutgers and Nebraska. I don't know, maybe Maryland Terps fans will get in the mix there as well. I think those are the things I think will get a lot of attention here coming out of Big Ten Media Week, if you will. At number 9, what is Washington? What are the Washington Huskies? To me, we haven't previewed their season yet, but I think they're one of the most mysterious teams of the Big Ten because I think they're a lot like Michigan. They lost a lot of talent. They played Michigan in the national championship. New coach, new quarterback. They'll have their usual size up front and all that, but they'll all be different players from what was in the national championship game. I think that's a big question mark this season. What is Washington going to be? And they may still be good. And number 8, how about the Iowa offense? There's going to be a lot of questions. Kirk Ferentz can answer a lot of questions about Cade McNamara coming back at quarterback. Tim Lester, the offensive coordinator, replacing his son, Brian Ferentz at OC. Those are the stories. Those are the questions. That's what's going to be asked this week. Number 7, Matt Rule will get a million questions about Dylan Raiola at quarterback. Will he start day one? That'll be the first question. Is he going to start day one as a true freshman? 5-star freshman who flipped from Georgia. Signed to come to Nebraska. I think it's a stone cold lock. He's starting on day one. That's what I think. Another big storyline that'll be discussed this week, Penn State football. Will they take that next step up? 10-2 the last 2 years. Losing to Michigan and Ohio State, but beating everybody else. 10-2, if they do it again, that will get you in the 12-team playoffs, no doubt, if you're in a Big Ten. Number 5, how about the Ohio State quarterback situation? There'll be a lot of questions about, okay, Will Howard, I guess he can start, but will he finish? Will they have the same quarterback at the end of the season? Julian saying, Aaron Nolan, a couple 5-star freshmen. Will they get their chance? We'll see. Ryan Day, those are the questions he's going to get asked. More predictions. How about Michigan? Sharon Moore doing his first media days as a head coach at Michigan. Who's starting a quarterback? Is Alex Orji your starting quarterback? We like Davis Warren. Who knows? These are the questions. Number 3, USC, Lincoln Riley. Will you guys play defense this year? We know you can score, although maybe not as much against a Big Ten defense that you face each and every week. But these are the questions he's going to get. And number 2, whole bunch of questions for the Oregon Ducks. There's going to be a lot of hype. Are they for real? Are they going to come in here in the Big Ten in their first year and win the Big Ten? I think it's going to be Ohio State versus Oregon in the Big Ten championship. I really do. And then number 1, expansion and realignment. This will be the buzz among the media, all the teams. Questions for the commissioner, Tony Petitti. That will be the number 1 topic of discussion early during Big Ten Weeks media, Big Ten Media Days. All right. What do you think? Did I leave one out? Is there something you are interested in that we can discuss here on Locked On Big Ten? Hit me up on Twitter at TalkBig10, number 10. Don't forget our website, TalkBig10, number 10.com, and comments on YouTube. If we left something out, love to hear from you. So there we have it. All right. It's a big week. We get through this week, then practices start, and the season will be here before you know it. So reach out to us in all the ways I just told you. Don't forget, before you go, subscribe. We're pushing toward 10,000 subscribers before football season starts. We're getting close. And you can follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. The audio-only version comes out at 4 a.m. Eastern. The video version on YouTube comes out at 6 a.m. Eastern every single day. Check out another podcast from Locked On Big Ten after this one. And when you're done, don't forget our friends at Locked On Sports Today. They're for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe there as well. First ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, we're going to get into it tomorrow. We'll have the whole list, the whole order, when your favorite coach is talking, what day, what players are coming along, what to watch for. Be all over these Big Ten Media Days, and to continue previewing the upcoming season. We can't wait. It's going to be a humongous week. Thank you for joining us here today. I always appreciate it, and I can't wait till we meet again tomorrow. Tell your friends about us out there. Spread the word. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman.